In part 1, which you need to watch if you haven't yet, we left off with us riding the minecart, some rocks start falling, a face appears, and suddenly we float off and are pulled into the face's mouth into the void. Next thing we know, we wake up in a dark room facing what appears to be the same door from before, but this time with the writing, "How rude, knock first." Guess our radio friend still doesn't want us joining him just yet. Walking through the door, we find ourselves in a long hallway, and halfway through, our radio friend speaks to us again.
For me, it started with a valve. Rusty old red piece of junk I found behind my studio. I don't remember why I did it, but I put my head inside this thing and I jumped at a certain angle near a wall and boom! I flew like 150 feet, landed on my neighbor's roof. Anyway, I started looking for other stuff like this, other anomalies. My favorites were collision testing and speed running, launching myself across town in 14 seconds flat. My neighbors kind of hated it though. They were trying to forget their old lives and watching me skip across the rooftops like a stone reminded them. But that's baby food. You can screw with the limits of Fantasyland till you're blue in the face, but you're just fast. You're not going anywhere. I was pushing against the limits, but nothing was ever gonna really change. Until I went into the sewer.
He talks about his life in a virtual simulation and then accidentally breaking that world with a red valve. Obviously a play on words, we're referencing the valve index. In another long hallway, we fight our way through a number of omni projectors, and at the end of this hallway is the elevator that's out of order. Could this be the same elevator that broke earlier? We find one office door open with another radio inside.
I was down there for a week, looking to shave a quarter second off between the bus stop and Admiralty, which was like a half mile away. One day, I hit my jump at the wrong angle and I go head first through what should have been like a concrete wall, only it wasn't. I passed right through it. I land in this tiny little box of a room, can barely stand up in it. Right away, it doesn't feel like I'm supposed to be there. 3 of the walls looked right, but one of them was just mesh and grid patterns, like somebody hadn't finished it. And sitting there on the ground was a 6-sided dice.
He mentions 6-sided dice. Is he talking about the same dice that we found at the beginning of our game? Moving on through the wall and some more boring hallways and more omni projectors, there's a hidden room under some stairs and another radio.
I didn't think anything of it for a second. I just picked it up, looked at it. But in the back of my mind, I was still trying to work out how to shave that second off between the bus stop and Admiralty. So when I dropped the dice and I turned to walk back out of there, whoosh, I'm suddenly walking at like 30 miles per hour. I'm beyond fast. I'm like lightning. Then I looked down and I wasn't in my body anymore. I looked like a girl, like some kind of assassin. I don't know. It scared the hell out of me actually. At first I thought I'd never go back down there. That feeling lasted about 3 hours.
So he used the avatar dice, but instead of becoming a random peasant like we did, he accidentally became a super athletic woman that was very fast. Moving on, we find a new kind of null body, one that's so corrupted by the void that has taken on a purple color that we associate with the void. In the next room, we finally see our radio friend's face as he transmits a message to his radio station, 98.6 Dead FM.
I started going back to the dice constantly. I'd roll it, thinking about strength, and boom, I was this bruiser guy who could punch through a wall. Focus on gravity, and there was some kind of soldier cat thing running on the ceiling. But it was always temporary. It would only last as long as I could focus on it. So I started focusing more and more.
Continuing on, there's a large museum display for body remapping, except most of it has been redacted and it's pending approval for the museum submission. The room next to it has a word explaining all of the avatar stats except intelligence, which was redacted. There's also another radio with our friend.
The point of this isn't go find magic dice. The dice were just a jump start. The question is, what are you actually capable of doing? And what if there's a place where the limits you put on yourself here don't exist? Where literally anything is possible. That's where we are. And if you're listening to this, consider this an invitation to join us. I wish I could tell you how you're gonna find it, but every path is different. What I can say is this: stop playing the game how it's meant to be played. Look for anomalies, look for breaks, test the limits. You'll find your way.
He tells us that we're in a place with no limits, where anything's possible. Is he talking about the void? He finishes his message by inviting us to join him. Finally, we find ourselves in a hallway leading to an elevator, and across from that, our radio friend that we saw earlier.
What you looking at, kid? Okay, you're pretty good, but you're still a player, and a player won't survive the ascent. Even if you did, I don't need another player. What I need is a DM, a creator, a builder. Here, take this body log, go fill it with avatars, and come back.
We're then guided through several levels to collect avatars. First, in Street Puncher, we get the Strong avatar. Then in Highway 17 The Bridge, Sprint Bridge 04, we collect Fast, the first avatar our friend ever got. In Magma Bridge, we collect Heavy. In Moonbase, we collect Short, and here our radio friend says something interesting.
Okay, I screwed up your gravity. Look, sometimes the rules change on you in the void. Improvise and roll with it.
Look, sometimes the rules change on you in the void. This confirms my suspicions from earlier that we're in the void. It's just not clear if he sent us to the void to collect these avatars, if we've been in the void since the minecart ride, or if we entered the void before that with the doors. All we know is that right now we are in the void collecting avatars in a bunch of random simulations. Anyways, in Monogon Motorway we collect the light avatar, and then finally in Pillar Climb we collect Tall by destroying a reflection of ourselves that turned into a void entity for some reason. After all of that, we're back talking to our radio friend.
Not bad, kid. Your body log's ready for full function. You're gonna have fun with that thing. You know, all of this, it's what the Boneworks team flushed. Maybe there's more. I don't know, but I do know there's a lot more than just Fantasyland out there. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't know where this all ends. But let's build something and find out together. The ascent ain't gonna be easy, but you're ready, I think. Take this. I'll see you topside.
We find ourselves back in the BONELAB hub, but this time with a key, which we use to finish unlocking the doors leading to the Boneworks box.
Level 6 authorization approved. Warning, Boneworks support staff not available for on-site certification. Please be advised, altering Boneworks memory profile will cause catastrophic instability.
Entering inside the room, there's nothing in it except the Boneworks crate, and nothing happens until we break it, which then lets out a purple orb that drags us up. We wake up in an empty black room with nothing but a single launch pad. This takes us up to a series of strange puzzles that we use our new avatars to help us solve. We also fight off several skeletons and null bodies along the way. Ultimately, we find ourselves ascending higher and higher as we move forward, ultimately finding ourselves in the recycling area where the majority of the game's launch trailer was recorded. Fighting off more enemies and solving more obstacles, we eventually get to the medieval management offices, but these aren't the same offices we were at in the beginning of the game. Remember how in the beginning there was a lot of quarantine doors that were shut? It appears that we're now on the other side of those quarantine doors. Finding off more Omni projectors and some Nullmen having a party, we keep moving up higher and higher until we get to the transit station. Except unlike earlier, these trains are actually working. We finally exit the transit station, finding a more medieval aesthetic with Nullmen dressed as peasants, and a new enemy known as a cultist. What are these messages written all over the place? Is that written in blood? Several of the messages are the precepts of Heaven's Reach, such as pay no heed below the belt or the rejection of all modification. And another message says, these are the laws we chose for peace, no more. The people of Heaven's Reach are rejecting their tenets. But why? What happened? Other messages say they abandoned Heaven's Reach. How could they? Why? On the table we see a model of Heaven's Reach with arrows pointing to Tuscany. Is this suggesting Monogon has abandoned Heaven's Reach for other projects? A clipboard from the Lava Gang actually confirms this. The clipboard also shows us that we are well past the point of no return. If we stay here, we'll be stuck in a long forgotten back closet of MythOS forever. But if we can make it to the Void, we're welcome to join them. It says we're building something new and expanding on what's been found. Grab what you can and we'll see you on the outside. Lava Gang was here. As we continue on, we see more and more messages. Why can't they work on this forever? Abandoned. Why? They left us to burn. Abandonware, heretics, betrayal, scam. Monogon took the money and ran. I want a refund. We will take up arms. We will take what's ours. They did this. They left us. Burn. And then one final message says, we can hear the sound of machines. Is this a reference to the final gate, the Hall of the Machine King? Finally, we find ourselves at the Wishing Well lift, which takes us up, back to our home, back to Heaven's Reach. Rising into Heaven's Reach, we hear a woman screaming, "You're supposed to be dead." Another woman later yells, "We'll hang you again." Well, since we're here, we might as well get revenge against everyone who tried to kill us. Fighting our way through villagers, peasant sentinel bodies and cultists, we discover what happened after they attempted to execute us. Apparently, soon after we escaped, a pit opened up, destroying a house. This must be the house that we found on the lift at the beginning of the game. Initially, they thought this was punishment from their god, but they ended up diving into the pit and learning the truth. Monaghan had abandoned them to pursue sinful exploits elsewhere, and so that's how they got down into MythOS to write all of those messages we saw before. Eventually, we find a boarded off area with 2 big doors leading to a peaceful field and a windmill. But then suddenly the sky opens up and a giant hand reaches down. That kind of looks like our friend from the radio station. We climb up the windmill, grab his hand, and he pulls us up into the void. At the top, we see our friend, a normal size now, in a cab from Tempest, Pennsylvania. He asks us to give him a push to start the cab, but before we do, we see the elevator, and all around it a bunch of broken crates and a clipboard explaining that the elevator is actually an emergency portable elevator, and that it has Boneworks approval from Hayes. Remember him from Boneworks? It also appears that the elevator was put here by none other than the Lava Gang. A warning on the box explains that the elevator is used to pierce the void for immediate access to MythOS. In other words, the elevator can be used in the void to access MythOS from anywhere in the void, and had the elevator worked when we first hit the exit simulation button, it would have brought us out of the MythOS simulation here to the void. From here we get in the cab with our friend, and while the credits roll, he has a lot to say to us.
All right. You are listening to 98.6 WCCK, Dead FM, Road Warrior Edition, and this is Jay with my new pal on board. Now, pal here was causing a lot of trouble over in Fantasyland. Good thing I showed up though, right? Now we're headed into the city, but as you regulars out there know, we can't just drive there. We're gonna need a little bit of help from an old classic. It's time for Don't Fence Me In.
We finally learn that our friend's name is Jay. That's nice to finally know. And he says that he's gonna take us into the city.
The song is The Road. Without it, we're just driving in circles and we never arrive.
The song Don't Fence Me In is a reference to the game's overall theme of breaking the game, playing outside of its limits, modding it, and creating whatever we want.
Just relax. Time's a little blurry here. You're at the end, but you're also back at the beginning. Don't try to understand it, it'll hurt your brain, and you gotta be careful with that thing, because here, all you got is your mind. This place is nothing but minds.
What he means by we are at the beginning is that he's actually taking us to the game's initial menu where we can restart the game. Since the void exists outside of space and time, we aren't on a linear timeline. We have both beat the game and just started playing it again. In fact, when we first see him in the cab, we can hear him repeating this line, the first thing that we ever heard from him as we were being executed.
Look folks, this stainless steel signature edition blade will cut through anything. But it's not gonna stick around long at the nice price of $19.99, so call in right now and get cutting.
Presumably he's saying that line to us again, or to another player who just started their journey to join the Lava Gang in the void. Don't try to make sense of it. Like he says, just accept it for what it is.
It may look peaceful out here, but it isn't. There's something hostile out there. It's been here a while, and it's got a head start on us. That's why I do this. Some people think we need an army. Others want like a big legion of clones. Don't get me started on that. But I don't like armies. I want something different. I want Hellraisers pointed in the right direction. I want controlled chaos, like you. See, everything out here is about building, about creation. And the more that we make stuff, the more our minds connect to each other. In this place, any haphazard group of individuals is gonna get wiped out. But a united force, that can survive. That's what we have to become before they get to us.
He again hints at some hostile being that's been there for a while. Like before, this feels like a clear reference to the third and final gate from Duck Season that we have yet to explore, that is, the Machine King Gate. And here's Jay recruiting people not for his army, but for his gang of creators, specifically the Lava Gang. He also mentions a big legion of clones that could be used, possibly a reference to Boneworks and all of the Arthur Ford clones. But he doesn't want any of that. He wants Hellraisers pointed in the right direction, controlled chaos. He is officially welcoming us into the Lava Gang, and he wants us, the real-life players, to now go and break the game and create.
You're on your own from here on out, pal. I'm not allowed any closer. It's a long story. But hey, welcome home. Everything's possible for Lava Gang.
We finally arrive at our destination, G11.4, and if you've been paying attention to the taxi fare, that means that we owe him $4 according to his flat rates. Some of the other available destinations include Pile, The Front, and Gunth's. Gunth's is a reference to Hover Junkers, Stress Level Zero's first game where a character, Gunth, has a garage and a diner. As for Pile and The Front, we can only speculate on what those are. As we walk away from the cab, he says that he has another caller and drives away, telling us to start building. And if you hang out here long enough, you'll see that he's actually driving in a long circle. Now there's lots of random Easter eggs all throughout the game, especially here in the cab and at G11.4. If you want a full explanation of all the Easter eggs and lore clues, please let me know in the comments, but for now, here's what I found that seems especially relevant to the story. First off, we find Arthur Ford's ID left behind in the cab. When he entered the void, he must have been picked up by Jay just like us. Further proof of this is in the menu graffiti area where we can see written, Arthur was here. Next, when Jay first picked us up, he said we'd be going into the city, but there's obviously no city here. The city he must be referring to is this 4-dimensional Tesseract city block. The block says every Genesis Hypercity is a memory-capped scalable municipality layered in 4D spaces. So the city is contained in this 4D city block, and it has all of the components that you would need, like a physics stability, Vismats, liquid light, shader material recycling, and resurrection field, of course. And this city block is apparently up to code. We can see written on it various city laws and city light settings. On the side, we see a drawing of X, a benevolent being from the void that helps us extensively in Duck Season and Boneworks. Several messages on the city block also tell us to look on top, where we see a message from Stress Level Zero thanking us for playing their game. We also see To the B-Side, a reference to how the Stress Level Zero devs want to release a sort of B-side to the game. In a whiteboard in the Stress Level Zero offices, we actually see them hinting at a puzzle that they want to release after launch. And next to it, we see some notes about how losing their company ID cards would pose a serious security threat. The theory right now is that the B-side they want to release will involve collecting these ID cards, matching them up to various locked doors that all have keycard scanners. Currently, I've only found one door at the minecart ride, which leads to a control room with nothing of particular interest. But maybe in the future update, we'll see these keycards get used. And lastly, we see the Machine King symbol, again hinting at the looming threat coming in the next game. Now, I want to thank everyone in the Stress Level Zero lore community for helping me decipher various clues and clarifying different plot points. This video was a lot of work to make, so if you enjoyed this video and are interested in learning more, then make sure you subscribe. Thanks for watching.